Hello and welcome to the Cover Design Details presentation. It's a brief presentation that's going to give you the information you need to be able to successfully create your magazine cover project. I'm going to begin the presentation by discussing a list of what I call ingredients. These are the things that you'll see on any given magazine cover. I'm going to define them on this slide and then show you examples on the next slide. So we'll begin with the masthead. This is also commonly called a logo. The masthead is often located at the top of the cover, and it should be the first thing that your reader sees when we're considering visual hierarchy. It must be legible and tell people about your magazine, so the visual voice that you developed for it will come through. It's always at the top because of magazine racks. If it's sold on a rack, that top 2 inches is all that you can see when a magazine is stored in front of it. If the masthead is developed with illegible fonts, people won't be able to view your magazine cover the way that you intend it, so be sure it is legible. When choosing your cover photo, that's the main image, you want to make sure you pick something that's interesting and that tells a story. So you want to reach your potential readers through this image, bring them in and make them want to read more. Showing the unexcited face of an unknown person will not do much to get the potential customer to reach for your magazine. Choose a photo that's recognizable to your target readers or shows action, unusual colors, is taken from unusual angles, or a combination of all of those features. The main image is also usually connected to a significant amount of coverage on the inside of the magazine. Then we have cover lines. So cover lines are previews of the text that you'll see, the stories you'll see inside of the magazine. The main cover line should be set apart visually, so it's established as the most hierarchy, and it is what is given the most coverage inside. Then you'll have, and depending on your project, between 2 and 4 additional cover lines. You can have more than that if you'd like. And these are just previews of the content. You can create your own cover lines for this project. You do not have to copy someone else's, but you can look to others for ideas as well. The date line just indicates the date and year, the month and year if it's a monthly magazine, the week of the year if it's a weekly, quarterly, by season, whichever it is. It's usually very small and somewhere near a barcode if you decide to include it. The barcode is the UPC code. It's a very simple, just a combination of rectangles, long, thin rectangles, and numbers. Some people like to have it on their magazine covers. They feel like it looks more professional. If you decide to do this, I would suggest finding a vector version of one so that you're able to use it and not have to worry about quality. Also, be sure to consider how big it actually is. The final is the selling line, and this may or may not be required in your project. It would say on the project description if it is. The selling line indicates which part of the magazine section it should be included in. So is it in housekeeping or technology or that type of thing? Let's look at some examples of these. So here we have our first one, our masthead at the top, brides. Our main image is the picture of the bride. Most magazines only have one, and when you're selecting that, as you'll see here on this one, make sure that you have enough room to put your cover lines. If you have a really busy photograph, it's often very difficult to include those cover lines. This one has a lot of cover lines. You're not required to have as many as this one has, but you want to make sure you don't pick something that's so busy or has so much detail that you can't put text over the top. Our main cover line is the big flower issue, so we can see, it's the biggest on the page. It's also located at the top. These are additional cover lines here. The date line is included here by the UPCs. It might also be up at the top in this case where it says visit us online at brides.com. You could also put that date line there, barcode, and selling line. The last slide I have here are just some things to consider. You don't have to have a photograph. It might be more beneficial for you to have an illustration. So Time Magazine will often use illustrations instead of just photographs. Any models that you use should be younger than your target audience. Everybody wants to see themselves as a little bit younger, except for teens. And we don't want to have models that are younger because teens want to be seen as older. Faces are typically not centered on the nose, but on one of the eyes, so you get that 3/4 perspective. It's more flattering and adds depth. Colors to avoid: black, white, and green are kind of overused colors. And when you include numbers, use odd numbers like 136 rather than 100. People like to think that there's more things inside this magazine, and having that kind of, instead of using a 10, using a 12 is a little bit more appealing. So with those, make sure that you guys are keeping these in mind as you create your magazine cover project, and I'm sure you'll have a successful draft for me to take a look at.